We hear this question comes up once in a while. Actually, most of the time, it is more rhetorical than a real question. The context varies, but usually it is when some computer software system is not doing what we wanted it to do. But let's treat it as a real question. Case in point, in the current COVID-19 era, all 50 states' unemployment offices are facing the same unprecedented crisis. The combination of people, processes, and technologies are overwhelmed by the sheer number of unemployed people filing for unemployment assistance. As the media continues to report on the issues, some people will point to the leadership as the main culprit. Some people will point to the labor-intensive processes along with insufficient staffing. And finally, some will point to the legacy computer systems being the source of our evil. Naturally, the suggestions will be changing out the leader, streamlining the processes, adding more staff, and replacing these legacy systems. So why don't they? So what is a legacy system anyway? It might be surprising to learn that there is no clear definition of what it is. Ask a wide range of people and we'll get a wide range of answers. Techies will use words like IBM, mainframe, COBOL, Visual Basic, or a bunch of other tech jargons. Likewise, ordinary people will use words like old, ancient, green screen, and many more. Even more surprising is that most of the time it doesn't really matter. If a system is not working the way we think it should, there is a tendency to just label it as a legacy system, as if something being old is the reason why everything is wrong with it. This tendency also implies that something new is always better. Bottom line is, the word legacy really doesn't matter. To answer the question of why they don't just replace these systems, we will need to understand two major aspects of software system replacement. One, the mechanics of system replacement, and two, the politics of system replacement. Here's a very simplified version of the steps to replace a system. Decide what the needs and the wants are. Go shopping and find out what's in the market. Adjust those needs and wants. Add the new ones we didn't know we want, and remove the ones that don't exist. Plan it out and price it out. Find the funding, buy it, put it in place, change the processes from old to new, train people to use the new technology and the new processes. Usually, the last step is to bring the old data into the new system. Makes sense, right? We naturally go through these steps on a daily basis. We do it when we replace, say, a toaster on a kitchen countertop. We know what we want a toaster to do, so we jumped into researching consumer reports, watching YouTube videos, reviews, deciding maybe we actually want a toaster oven instead of a toaster because we like to warm up Costco pizza and croissants too. More YouTube videos later, we reached Amazon, picked through the name brands versus the knockoffs, clicking buy without even blinking since it's only $50 and Amazon already has our credit card number. All that's left to do is wait for it to arrive, open the box, plug it in, read the manual, or not, and teach the kids how to make toast in the new toy. The entire process of replacing a toaster isn't that laborious and might take an hour. But if we're replacing a house, there is a lot more work. Which location? What's the neighborhood like? Where are the schools? Are they good schools? What's the weather like? Is it in the flood zone? Is that good building materials? What kind of water supply? Is it tied to the grid? What about solar power? How many rooms? How is it cooled? Do we need to fix the windows in kitchens? There are 1,000 intertwined questions and decisions. Along the way, we'll need a realtor, find a bank to do financing, a contractor to do the work. This process will be significantly more laborious, and it will definitely take months if not years. And that's just between you and your significant other making all the decisions. This leads us to the first difficult part in system replacement, making group decisions. In any large system, there will be a dozen or more stakeholders or have varying objectives. The team that uses the system will want it fast. The team that supports the system will want it easy to support. The team in charge of security will want it safe. The team in charge of money will want it cheap. The team upstream from this operation doesn't want to change their processes. The team downstream worries about the same. None of these objectives are malicious, they're just different. And they will cause disagreements on many of the thousands of decisions that need to be made. Anyone who has conducted large discussions can confirm how much time these take. On top of that, none of these people are doing this work full time. They all have day jobs. Some can't meet more than once a week, dragging this process out. The second difficult part is how to handle the unfulfilled needs. No system is perfect. There are bound to be things we want that a new system cannot do. Do we kick out the front runners and keep shopping even though they can do 80% of what we want and hope there's something out there that does everything perfectly? Often the market just doesn't have a solution that does everything we want. How is that possible with millions of apps out there, you ask? But it isn't really that surprising. Look at the market for, say, unemployment system in the United States. There are only 50 potential customers. If you want to make money, writing the next Flappy Bird makes a lot more sense. So let's say we stick with what we found. Then the question becomes, are these unfulfilled needs important enough that they need to be custom built at great expenses? Or are they only important to certain people and we can leave them sulking in the corner for not getting what they want and hope they don't get mad? Lastly, the most difficult part is finding the money. While a $50 toaster will only cost pennies to operate, so we won't think twice about it, the house is not just $100,000 upfront. Every year, there's property taxes, general maintenance, and upkeep. Every few years, the exterior will need to be repainted, septic tank needs to be cleared out, washer, dryers, water heaters, and all manners of things will break and need to be replaced or repaired. Every 15 or 30 years or so, the roof and sidings will need to be redone. Who knows what else? Likewise, that new system is not just about the $100,000 price tag. Unless there are people lying around not doing anything, an additional chunk of money would be needed to pay for the labor to do the customization, implementation, testing, and everything else over the 6, 12, or 18 months. But that's not the end. Now that we have a state-of-the-art system, we'll need to pay licensing fee annually. To continue to maintain and support the new system, we'll need more staffing. Once in a while, there might be new laws and new regulations that require the system to be modified. That takes money and staffing too. This amount looks like a lot, but that's only 7 or 8 people's salary and benefits. A couple of software developers, a couple of administrators, new support personnel, maybe even a few additional staff to operate it. Some smart person would say, just outsource it. No problem. You would just be paying someone else to do all that. Instead of calling it salary and benefit, you just call it a subscription fee. One way or another, you are paying for it. So instead of just asking for $1 million upfront, a new system really needs $1 million upfront and another $500,000 every year after that. Just like a house or a car, it always costs more than the initial spending. So where's the money coming from? Money is a good segue to start talking about the politics of replacing a system. Under normal circumstances, no operating unit in any business or government has the kind of funding lying around to buy a brand new system, implement it, and pay for the new staff or subscription fee on an ongoing basis. If they have that much money lying around unused, it would have been taken away long ago. Extra funding must be appropriated from higher level. Whenever a business or government department go ask for money, all sorts of people want all sorts of information. What are the justifications? What is the plan? Why should this be higher priority than any other projects? There is never enough money to go around, so if this is getting funded, something else won't. So these are completely valid questions and concerns. And if we're talking about government, these are our tax money. Trust me, we want them to ask those questions and to address those concerns. So the request for funding will be discussed and argued at various levels, however high up they need to go, however long it needs to take. The best case scenario, everyone loves it and supports it. The worst case scenario, there will be research and studies and hearings, and the whole process drags on for months, if not years. And that's just normal appropriation process. There is also the question of timing. Unlike individuals, organizations and governments operate on fiscal years. Different organizations start and end on different time of the year. The US federal government's fiscal year starts on October 1st and ends on September 30th of the next year. Lots of businesses start on July 1st and end on June 30th. A fiscal year's funding is reviewed, discussed, and approved during the previous fiscal year's planning cycle. So if we go ask for money now, if we make the budget submission deadline so that it gets reviewed and discussed and everyone supports the cause, the best case scenario is that we get the money for next fiscal year. If we miss the planning cycle, we'll have to wait until next year before we can even ask. In business and government, there is no such thing as do it now when it wasn't planned and funded. If it has to be done now, like in an emergency or a disaster, some business or governmental function is stopping, or someone is not getting paid, or both. Here's the part no one wants to talk about. When something goes wrong, everyone wants to fix it, or at least be part of the solution. That's heroic and glamorous. But when nothing is apparently wrong and we're asking for funding to do preventative work, like replacing the unemployment system in case there's a pandemic that causes unemployment rate to reach 10%, no one would have supported that in 2018 because there are always better places to spend money, and what could happen might never happen, right? So we're spending money for nothing, right? Prevention is just not glamorous or heroic. Remember that pothole on the road that drove everyone mad for months? The moment the news media picks up the story, or the moment so-and-so representatives speak of it publicly, it is fixed the next week, if not the next day. We're a culture that reward action. We love the idea of something needs to be addressed, and we come together and address it. The call to action is heroic. The people who are decisive and responsive get a pat on the back. We celebrate and call that teamwork. Together, we can accomplish anything. But if you just fix the pothole as part of your day job without the reporter and the camera, there will be no trumpet and confetti. Probably not even a job well done pat on the back. Preventative system replacement has the same issue. There's more bad news. If we're talking about government, a large expenditure at the wrong time might be looked upon as an invitation for negative criticisms and not helpful in re-elections. That can also affect whether a request for funding will be approved. All these, unfortunately, are the politics of system replacement. In short, system replacement, legacy or not, is expensive, time-consuming, and laborious. A lot of people need to be convinced to agree to a lot of decisions, and not everyone will be happy. On the political side of things, there are always better places to spend money. We often choose to believe that the worst-case scenario might never happen, and our culture just doesn't reward preventative work. In the end, what usually happens is the leaders of these operating units just give up fighting the uphill battles, so these systems don't get replaced year after year. I was going to end the video here and leave that as the answer to the question, but that sounded kind of powerless and sad. Isn't there something we can do to change that? There's probably no easy way to change our individual mindset of appreciating those that react to solve our problems instead of appreciating those that prevented the problems from occurring to begin with. Likewise, there is probably no easy way to change the culture of rewarding heroic act, but ignoring the people doing their day jobs competently. Why don't we appreciate our garbage man as much as our doctor? Changing people's mind is probably not how we're going to solve this. If we examine the politics again, these are very much rooted in human nature to rationalize our choices and to focus on the now instead of the to be. Maybe there's a way to bypass them. In the past, the department in a company or in the government owns the technologies. The ownership comes with a level of burden, and that is to fund and to staff the support and maintenance of those technologies. Ideally, they should also fund and staff the upgrade and replacement. But money and people sitting around for rainy day always get taken away. That's what led us here to begin with. In the last decade or two, we observed the explosion of cloud technologies. Those aren't just buzzwords. They also imply a change in roles. Instead of owner, we become users whose sole responsibilities are to use these technologies and to pay the bills. The support, maintenance, upgrade, and replace responsibilities shifted to the service providers. Instead of periodically having to go fight the uphill battle to upgrade or to replace the system, all that is needed is an approval to increase the budget once to include a recurring subscription fee. Decision makers are a lot more likely to comprehend the pay-as-we-use and pay-as-we-go nature of subscription payments. Even though it really can't go away, the spending is relatively consistent year over year and easy to understand. That could allow us to leave both the mechanics and the politics of system replacement behind, forever. Of course, it isn't all blue sky and green grass. Cloud, basically leasing, costs more by nature. Without true ownership, there is really no control over what the service providers do or not do. And to use stopping payment as a bargaining chip really is an illusion. We cannot not have an unemployment system, ever. The service providers know that. Some will question if that's giving up too much control, but that is a different story. Throughout this video, we just accepted the premise of the legacy system is evil and needs to be replaced. Is that even the right solution? Shouldn't we be asking those questions up front? Don't worry, the people that ask a lot of questions would have asked that too. People love to pick other people's ideas apart. We don't have to worry about that. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching.